So I hope you're all doing well. Right, there are loads of ways to this teaching, and there's only one way. We can say there's one way, and it goes by many different names. It can have lots of different expressions. Many of you will know that I like the Vedanta teachings. And they're the best teachings for me. Doesn't mean they're the best for you, but they are very good. But there are some problems with Vedanta. Vedanta is this Hindu style teaching. One of the problems is that often the way it's taught is very academic, scholarly. So you get these people who are pundits. They are scholars. They have read all the scriptures. They've read all the texts. They're they're well versed on the language of Sanskrit, and they understand Sanskrit grammar. And every single verse and line they've managed to dissect and analyze. And then they teach from that place. And that's not the Vedanta teaching. It sounds like the Vedanta teaching. It looks like the Vedanta teaching, but that's not the Vedanta teaching. Now, scriptural study can be immensely helpful to understand the teaching, because the scriptures contain the teachings. But the purpose of the scriptures isn't for you to study them forever. The purpose of the scriptures is for you to turn within and abide as the self and realize the self and remove ignorance or egotism, which is the belief on the body-mind idea, and discover your true nature, which is beyond words and which never suffers, which is always one whole, complete, non-dual, Advaita. Advaita meaning non-dual. Now, one way to help you turn away from the world, it's very difficult to turn away from the world if you think it's real, if you think it's hugely, hugely important. So one teaching is to consider or view the world as an illusion, as a dreamlike illusion. So we've got Guru Vachaka Kovai here, one of my favorite texts. It contains a collection of Ramana's sayings. I've got competition from Fran, I think, there. Not sure if I like competitors. No, it's all well, it's all good. It's all good. So I thought I'd read you some verses. So, remember, the power of the teachings is not just in the words. So I want you to listen with your minds and also open up your heart to the teaching. The teaching which is being given beyond the words in every moment. The Guru that is always here. Let's have a look. So, these teachings are only for spiritual seekers. They're open to everyone. They're open to everyone. Anyone can access them, read them. But they're only for spiritual seekers. They're only for people who are interested in spirituality. These teachings are not for somebody who's not interested in the spiritual path. Verse 44. The world, like snake in a rope, thief in a stump, mirage in air, has no real existence. The world, like snake in a rope, thief in a stump, mirage in air, has no real existence. Seeming to be mere appearance is its nature. Seeming to be mere appearance is its nature. The world, like snake in rope. Everyone understand that? The rope that in dim light is mistaken to be a snake. The snake is not real. It doesn't really exist apart from in your imagination. The rope is that which is real. The snake is harmful, it's scary, it causes suffering. The rope is benign, causes no harm, causes no suffering. Thief in a stump. A stump is a post. And in dim light, you're walking down the street and you suddenly see somebody there. Maybe a thief, maybe a mugger. And you look and it's just a post. It's just a pillar, a post, a stump. The thief was an illusion, figment of your imagination, nothing to be afraid of. It's just a post. Benign, harmless, nothing to cause suffering. And the last one is mirage in air, which I think speaks for itself. The world, like snake in rope, thief in a stump, mirage in air, has no real existence. Seeming to be mere appearance is its nature. Verse 130. When will the fool who thinks the body and world are permanent and clings to them find peace? When will the fool find peace? The fool, who's the fool? The fool is the one who thinks the body and world are permanent and clings to them. That's the fool in this verse. When will this fool find peace? Only when, this is the second half of the verse, only when this folly leaves him and he trusts and like a limpet clings to that, the self within. Thenceforward he shall never more know pain. He shall never more know pain. So what Ramana is saying is the fool looks for happiness in the world. But the world is temporary. So give up this folly, this foolishness, and cling to the self like a limpet. A limpet's like one of those things you see on the seaside that cling to the rocks. What do they call that? Hopefully you know what I mean. Those like shelled creatures that cling to the rocks. Sorry if I'm over-explaining things. Cling to the self. Be the self. And then what's the promise? The promise is, then you will not know pain. You'll just be in the bliss of the self. The corollary to that is that the person who takes the body, mind, world to be real suffers. Verse 293. Know that these countless things are pictures in a dream. And none is real apart from the beholder. The beholder means the knower. Shun this phantom world of names and forms. Shun means turn away. Shun this phantom world of names and forms and dwell in the pure, blissful being of awareness. Consciousness, you'd say. Here it's written as awareness. Dwell in the pure, blissful being of awareness. What does the word pure mean here? When we hear about consciousness and pure consciousness, awareness and pure awareness, what does pure mean? Pure means devoid of objects. It's not mixed consciousness, tainted with objects, it's pure consciousness. So Guru Vachaka was written by Murugan, but Ramana wrote a few verses himself. And a few of those verses are interspersed throughout the text. This next one I'm going to read is one of Ramana's verses that he wrote himself. This is Ramana verse 9. It comes just after verse 565 of Guru Vachaka. One forgets the self and thinks the body is oneself. That's what forgetting the self means, by the way. When you forget the self, That means you take the body to be yourself. One forgets the self and thinks the body is oneself and goes through innumerable births. And in the end, remembers and remains the self. That's what he's saying. You leave the self, you forget your true nature. And then you take yourself to be the body mind. And you go through innumerable births, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. And then finally, you remember the self. You remember what you are. After hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of births and deaths and suffering. Finally, at some point, you remember you're the self. And he says here, and you remain the self, which means you abide as the self. This is your practice. Then he says, no, this is only like awaking from a dream, wherein one has wandered all over the world. Because this is like someone falling asleep and dreaming they've traveled all over the world, hundreds and thousands of lifetimes. And they wake up and realize it was all a dream. It's like those stories you write when you're a child. You know, you write this story and at the end you say, and it was all a dream. It's like that movie you never want to watch, which ends like, oh, and it was all a dream. It's like, what? It reminds me of another verse in Guru Vachaka, which I didn't put aside for this meeting, where he says, if you cling to the self, the suffering of the world and the karma in the world and the objects of the world will never even affect or touch you. And sometimes people think they're a victim of their past or their circumstance. Ramana says there's no time you can't do self-inquiry. There's no place you can't do self-inquiry. And there's no person who cannot do self-inquiry. There's no time, person, or place to whom or where or when self-inquiry is not possible. And when you abide as the self, then you're free from all karma, all your circumstance, the whole of your life, all the pleasure and pain, you're free from it all. Isn't that wonderful? To me, that's a message of hope. It means it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how bad you've been or how good you've been. You can abide as the self. You can access these teachings. You can follow the practice and you can be liberated. You can know what you are. Why is it open to everyone? It's because you're the self already. It's like the lion who thinks he's a sheep, but he's actually a lion. He's already a lion. He doesn't have to work and toil for days and nights on end as a sheep to earn the right to be a lion, does he? He's already a lion. Or she's already a lion. Okay, go forward a bit, verse 673. Destroying through discrimination the basic error that I am the body, an object, and rejecting it and the world as mere mirages false. The awareness that surviving shines alone as being, that am I. He's saying the basic error is I'm the body. He says that body is an object. Don't take yourself to be an object. So reject the body and the world as mere mirages, false mirages. This translation of Guru Vachaka Kovai, often the word order is changed to how we'd normally say it naturally to make it sound more poetic. Here they're called mirages false mirages, we could say. So reject the body world as false mirages. What's left when you reject it, when you turn away? That's the self. That is what you are. The awareness that surviving shines alone as being, that am I. verse 835. Renouncing this phenomenal world which seems to but does not exist, we gain the self. How do we gain the self? By renouncing this phenomenal world which seems to exist but does not exist. We gain the self, which is the awareness shining all unseen. This is the awareness shining all unseen. This means that awareness is not an object, it's not the seen. The awareness is shining, but it's the formless awareness. Formless means it cannot be seen. It's what you are, it's the subject. And verse 876. Until the snake illusion goes, its ground or basis, the real rope will not be recognized. And then he juxtaposes the rope snake analogy with the next part of the verse. So the first is, until the snake illusion goes, its ground, the real rope, will not be recognized. And then he says, until the false world of phenomena disappears, the self, its ground, will not shine clear. So this is in Guru Vachaka Kovai, but this is actually, for those of you who have studied this text, you would know in Who Am I, he also has the same teaching. He talks about the rope and the snake near the start of Who Am I. And he says, like the rope and the snake analogy, until you remove the world from your perception, you will not perceive the self. The self will appear to be covered. And he says, just like the rope and the snake illusion, when the rope appears to be the snake, unless you remove the illusion of the snake, you will not see the rope. You see, you'll continue to think there's a snake there. And then you'll be afraid. And you'll be trying to run away from the snake and get away from the snake. And you'll be spending lifetimes and all your energies trying to figure out how to tame this snake. The beauty of this teaching is that it says there's no snake. There's never been a snake. It's all good. You think it's bad because you're entangled in this ignorance, in this illusion, in this fantasy. Wake up. Stop dreaming. How to wake up? Turn away from the fantasy. You think the fantasy is real? Turn away from the fantasy, the body, mind, world fantasy. Abide as the pure self, and then you will see the self is real, and you'll see oneness everywhere. And suffering will end. It's like that dream I told you about a few sessions ago. You're dreaming, you're the fairy princess in the sky. And you're married and you've got kids and you've got a kingdom and everything's wonderful. But it's a fantasy. And when you wake up, you think, oh my gosh, how come I thought I was a fairy princess living in a castle in the sky? I can't believe I thought that was real. At the time, if someone told you it was a dream, you would have felt offended. You want to be with your family in your kingdom in the sky. But when you wake up, you realize, gosh, it was all a fantasy, and you're glad that someone helped you wake up. Okay, there's another verse, but I think we've read this before, but I'll read it again. Verse 749. The universe out there appears when scanned, but when not scanned, it disappears. Scanned in this sense means looked at. The universe out there appears when scanned or looked at, but when not scanned or when not looked at, when you turn away from it, it disappears. Turning away from this, search keenly for the self within the heart and think no more of birth. Think no more of creation, which is Maya. You are the unborn, that which has never been born and never dies, beyond birth and death.